She moved into my house, destroyed my garden, and attacked me. I made sure she regretted it. Welcome to Satisfying Drama Stories, where family conflict, betrayal, and karma unfold in gripping, emotional stories with endings that deliver justice. If you love dramatic twists, relatable characters, and satisfying revenge arcs, you're in the right place. New stories every week. If you enjoy stories like this one, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. New stories are posted every week, and hitting that subscribe button helps this channel grow. Now, let's get into today's story. Penny was 56 years old and had built a quiet, contented life for herself. She lived alone in a beautiful home she had worked hard for, a home filled with memories and, most importantly, her garden. She had been a widow for 10 years, and in that time she had learned to find peace in routine. Every morning she woke early, made her coffee, and stepped out onto her patio to look at her roses before opening her small florist shop for the day. Penny was not a woman who chased conflict. She believed, deep down, that avoiding drama was the secret to a happy life. She had lived by that belief for decades, and it had served her well, right up until her son Rick married a woman named Stephanie. From the very first time she met Stephanie, Penny sensed something was off. There was a coldness underneath the smiles, a sharpness in the way Stephanie spoke about other people when she thought no one was paying attention. Penny recognized the signs of a toxic personality almost immediately, but she said nothing. She told herself it was not her place to interfere in her son's marriage. She kept her distance, visited only when she was invited, and never voiced an opinion about their relationship, their finances, or their choices, even when Rick or Stephanie asked her directly. She thought that staying quiet was the safest way, to keep the peace and keep her son close. For a while, that strategy seemed to work. Rick and Stephanie built their life together, and Penny watched from a respectful distance, content to be a supportive mother without inserting herself where she was not wanted. Then Rick and Stephanie decided to buy their first home together. It should have been a happy milestone. They found a house they loved and put in an offer. But there was a problem. Their apartment lease was ending before their new home would be ready to close. They needed somewhere to stay in the meantime, just for a short while. So they asked Penny if they could move in with her until the sale was finalized. Penny hesitated for only a moment. 30 days, she told herself. What could possibly go wrong in 30 days? She loved her son, and she wanted to help him start this new chapter of his life. So she agreed, and Rick and Stephanie moved their boxes and furniture into her spare rooms. The first week was pleasant enough. Stephanie was polite, even warm at times, and Penny began to think that maybe she had misjudged her daughter-in-law after all. But it did not take long for small comments to start slipping out. Stephanie would walk through the house and remark on how lovely it was, how spacious the kitchen felt, how much she wished they could afford a home in a neighborhood like this one. Every time she said it, Rick would smile at her adoringly, the way a man smiles at a woman he cannot say no to, and promise her that soon, very soon, she would have exactly what she wanted. Penny brushed off the comments at first. She told herself it was just wishful thinking, harmless daydreaming about the kind of home they hoped to have someday. She had no idea how literally Stephanie meant those words. About 2 weeks into their stay, Penny was cleaning the guest bathroom, the one Rick and Stephanie were using when she noticed a small stack of papers left on the vanity. She was not the type to pry, but something about the papers caught her eye, an official-looking letterhead, a cancellation notice. She picked them up and read them carefully, and her stomach dropped. Rick and Stephanie had canceled the purchase of their new home. Penny stood there in the bathroom for a long moment, the papers trembling slightly in her hands as the truth settled over her. They were not planning to move out in 30 days. They were not planning to move out at all. She did not confront them right away. She waited, her mind spinning through explanations that might make sense of what she had just read, hoping there was some reasonable answer. But when Rick and Stephanie came home that evening, she could not hold it in any longer. She sat them, down and asked, as calmly as she could manage, why they had canceled the purchase without telling her. It did not take long for Stephanie's calm expression to crack. She stood up, her voice rising almost immediately, and told Penny flatly that they were not moving out. She said she deserved a home like this one, a home just like Penny's, and she did not see why she should have to settle for anything less. Penny turned to her son, waiting for him to step in, to explain, to reassure her that this was some kind of misunderstanding. Instead, Rick looked at his mother with an expression she had never seen on his face before, cold and distant, and told her that Stephanie was his wife now, and she was going to have what she wanted. Penny felt something inside her go very still. She did not argue. She did not raise her voice. She simply stood up, walked to her bedroom, and locked the door behind her. She told herself that things would look different in the morning, that a night of sleep might soften whatever had just happened in her living room. She wanted, more than anything, to believe that this was temporary, a rough patch that would pass. The next morning, Penny woke to her usual routine. She made her coffee, and she carried it out to the patio, the same way she had every single morning, for years, to look at her roses before the day began. But this morning, the roses were not there. She stepped outside and found her rose bushes ripped from the ground, roots and soil piled in a heap at the edge of the patio. Stephanie was standing over the wreckage with a shovel in her hands, admiring her work with a pleased, almost satisfied look on her face. When she noticed Penny standing in the doorway, she did not even flinch. She simply said that she did not want the roses in her new home. She said they took up too much space. Something in Penny finally broke. Years of biting her tongue, years of staying quiet to keep the peace, came apart in an instant. She marched across the patio and reached for the shovel, trying to pull it out of Stephanie's hands, telling her, in a voice louder than she had used in years, to pack her things and get out of the house. Before Penny could react, Stephanie swung the shovel and struck her hard across the chest. The impact knocked the breath out of her lungs, and Penny collapsed to the ground, gasping, pain radiating through her ribs. Through the haze of shock, she saw her son standing in the doorway. He had heard the commotion. He had seen his mother on the ground. And he did nothing. He did not move to help her. He did not call for an ambulance. He simply stood there. Penny called out for help as loudly as she could, and it was her neighbor who came running, who saw her lying on the patio in obvious pain, and who immediately called 911. Paramedics arrived and took her to the hospital, where doctors found that she had 3 broken ribs from the blow. Once she had recovered enough to think clearly, Penny went to the police and reported everything that had happened. She filed for a restraining order against Stephanie, and because of the assault, the order was granted. Rick and Stephanie were legally forced to move out of her home. The case eventually went to court. Penny sat in the courtroom and watched as her son cried, telling the judge how sorry he was, how he never meant for any of this to happen. But when the judge turned to Penny and asked if she wanted to make a statement, she stood up. She looked directly at her son and his wife, and in a steady voice, she said that she never wanted to see either of them again. The judge granted a permanent restraining order. Penny lost her son that day, at least on paper. But in her heart, she understood something else entirely. She had not lost him in that courtroom. She had lost him years earlier, the very day he met Stephanie. And everything since had simply been the slow unraveling of a truth she had not wanted to face. In the weeks that followed, Penny returned to her patio with fresh soil and new bushes. She knelt in the dirt, planting them one by one, right where the old ones had been torn away. It was not the same garden it used to be, and she knew that. But as the new roses began to take root, so did she, slowly finding her way back to the peaceful life she had built for herself, on her own terms, in her own home. If this story moved you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more real stories like Penny's. It really does help this channel keep going, and there are many more stories just like this one coming soon. Thank you for watching.